Hey guys, this is Joel with Sharp Edge Financial. Welcome back to the financial video series. Today we'll talk about student loans and how to effectively manage them. Before we get into it though, just a quick word from compliance. Obviously, we don't provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. So I mentioned this before in a previous video. A financial plan should have a foundation. It should have some different defensive strategies to allow you to feel comfortable about, all the offensive strategies like, funding your education, retirement planning, other short-term goals. Student loans are part of that foundation. It's part of the debt management piece. So today we'll talk about three things. One, we'll talk about how there's really not a one-size-fits-all strategy for student loans. Number two, we'll discuss how to execute the plan and how to actually put things in motion. And then number three, we'll talk about a question I get a lot from attorneys is whether they should refinance their student loans. So as I just mentioned, it's really important to understand that there isn't a one-size-fits-all strategy to repaying student loans. Really, what your strategy should boil down to is what your goals are. And obviously, goals are different for everybody. But for the most part, if you're looking at the demographic of young attorneys, they should fall within the following three scenarios. Scenario number one, maybe your number one goal isn't to repay your student loans as fast as possible. There could be many reasons why. Number one, maybe you have a pretty low interest rate on your loans and you prefer investing your extra cash flow into your retirement account or a brokerage account or whatever, because you think you can earn a higher interest rate there than what you're paying on your loans. If you recall that your Econ 101 classes, we call that opportunity cost, the cost of pursuing a certain opportunity versus another one. Another example could be if you have a big purchase coming up. Maybe you're trying to buy your first house and you need money for the down payment. Maybe you're trying to fund your wedding, things like that. Or maybe you have other higher interest debt that you're trying to pay off first before tackling your student loan. So this is you will probably want to balance paying off your loans with funding your other goals, potentially even reducing your payment on your loans until you've fully funded the other goals. So that's scenario one. Scenario two, your goal is to repay your student loans as fast as possible. And if this is you, you're probably going to want to look at your budget and see how much more payment in addition that you can pay every month towards the principal balance to accelerate that final repayment date. Certain circumstances might even make sense to refinance your loans with a private lender. We'll get to that in just a little bit. And scenario number three, here is for folks who work for a public institution. So there are different loan forgiveness programs that are available for folks who work at public institutions for a certain amount of time, and they can get their entire balance forgiven. So if that's you, the goal is probably to repay as little as possible over the life of the loan and try to maximize the amount forgiven. So once you know your goals, what proactive steps can you take to execute that plan? Well, first, just like in any problem solving, you want to gather the information. So first, if you don't know already, find out who your loan servicer is. And a few pieces of information that are important to get from your loan servicer would be your type of repayment plan that you're on, obviously your interest rate, your loan balance, also maybe your original loan balance, the final repayment date or payoff date, as well as of course, the payment, the monthly payment. And you can usually find that on your student loan statement from your servicer. So that's number one. The second thing is to review your budget. So I've touched on budgeting in a previous video. Without having a good sense on your budget, you just simply won't be able to know how much you can objectively allocate towards repaying your student loan. So it's really important to start with updating your budget or creating one before you can tackle the task of student loan management. Step number three, so before you go down the rabbit hole of exploring all the different repayment strategies that are out there, again, just make sure that your goals are crystal clear with what you want to do. So as I mentioned earlier, there are different repayment strategies, and they may differ depending on what your goals are. So on one hand, if you take, for example, if you're trying to buy a house and you're trying to save for a down payment, maybe your strategy will be to pay as little as possible on your student loans until you've accumulated the money for the down payment. This might even mean switching from the standard repayment plan, which is the 10-year standard plan that you're put on after you graduate from college. So switching from that to an income-driven repayment plan, or IDR for short. So IDR plans are repayment plans that are based on your income and not on your loan balance, like the standard repayment plan. So they're really good if you have a very large loan balance and you're trying to minimize those monthly payments. If you make too high of an income and IDR plans don't really make sense, and you're still trying to reduce that monthly payment, there's other options. There's the graduated repayment plan or extended repayment plans, which should also cut your payment significantly from the standard repayment plan. So that's on one hand. You should try to generate extra cash by reducing your monthly payment towards your loans. On the other hand, if your goal is to repay your student loans as fast as possible, then the standard repayment plan is likely your best bet. And again, reviewing your budget and seeing how much you can allocate on top of what is required for your payment, and to apply that to the principal. You could also apply a bonus that you get at the end of the year and try to accelerate that final repayment date. So either way, your goal is to pay off your loans as fast as possible. And then lastly, it's really important that you enroll in autopay. And this is true for both public loans or federal loans and private loans, because you're entitled to a 1/4 point discount on your interest rate when you enroll in autopay. It may not sound like a lot like that, but it does add up over time. The last thing I'll add about this slide is that your strategy can change over time. Going back to our example of buying your first house, if you end up saving not enough money and getting that house, there's nothing that prevents you from now switching to a more aggressive strategy to paying off your loan. So you can go back and forth between these. The only one thing that you can't go back is if you do a refinancing of your loans with a private lender. You can never go back to federal after that. All right, so moving along, like I said earlier, a question I get a lot from attorneys is whether they should refinance their student loans. Well, like most things in life, it depends. So let's look at when it would make sense to refinance, and if it does, what steps to take to do that. So first, let's discuss things to consider before you actually make the decision of refinancing. So the first thing is, again, what's my goal regarding my student loans? Am I trying to pay off my loans as fast as possible? Do I have other priorities that I'm trying to fund first? Am I going for loan forgiveness? Again, everything we just talked about earlier. Number two, will I need student loan assistance in the future? So this is really important, because once you go from federal to private, you lose all student loan assistance. So here we're talking about, switching to these income-driven repayment plans, or the extended or graduated loan forgiveness programs and loan forbearance, right? We saw during COVID, nobody who had federal student loans had to pay their loans, versus private loans had to be paid. So that's just one example that you would lose if you refinance. Number three, where are private interest rates? So it's really important to keep an eye on where interest rates are. And really, not necessarily at all time every day, but at least periodically checking. And that's because maybe right now it doesn't make sense to refinance for you, but maybe it will in a year if the interest rate landscape changes. So it's really important to know. And one tip that I actually got from one of my clients was, so he signed up for a few different lenders' marketing emails. And instead of clogging up his Outlook inbox, he created a rule in his Outlook that would automatically send those emails to this folder that he had labeled student loans. And then once a month or once a quarter, he would go through this folder and is see what's going on in the world of student loan interest rate. So I thought that was a good way to keep up with it. So I thought I'd share it. Number 4, will I qualify for refinancing? So student loans, unlike federal private student loans, unlike federal student loans, they are not only based on your where the interest rates are, interest rate environment, but they're also based on your credit worthiness. So that's your credit score and your debt to income ratio. So if you have 2 applicants, one with a really good credit score and one with a more average or below average credit score, the applicant with the better credit score will get a higher, a better interest rate, so a lower interest rate. So when you do your research online and you see these ranges with private lenders, that's why. So you see the low range and the high range. Number 5, we discussed this just a little bit ago. What's my monthly budget? When you refinance, just know that you're pretty much locked into that payment unless you refinance again, right? So there's no way to switch from an income-driven repayment plan to extended. You have way less flexibility. So knowing your monthly budget is really, really important for this refinancing. And then lastly, just apply the common sense rule. Does it make sense to refinance? If you're looking to pay off your loans as fast as possible, are you saving money by doing so? And if you are saving money, is it enough to warrant losing access to federal student loan benefits? I'll give you an example. I have a client, and it's a husband and wife, and they both have federal student loans, pretty significant amount. And when they came to me, we wanted to see, okay, what's the difference between stay at the federal level, potentially refinancing. And when we did the exercise, we found out they would save $1,500 by refinancing one of their loans. Well, if you look in the grand scheme of things, that's over the life of the loan. It just simply wasn't enough savings to warrant switching from the federal loan to a private loan and losing access to all those benefits. So again, does it make sense to refinance? If it does, let's see what steps you would need to take to do that. So first, you're going to want to do your due diligence on the lenders. You can find a lot of good information online. Websites like Bankrate and LendingTree, they will rank the lenders by customer service and obviously interest rates and just certain different criteria like that. Just be aware that if you are going that route, these lenders are likely paying a fee to be listed on these lists. So just make sure you do your independent research as well. So number 2, once you've written down the name of a few reputable lenders, now you can get rate estimates. There's this misconception in the industry that if you get a rate estimate, it's going to hurt your credit score. And that's probably because you have to enter your social security number and a bunch of information that frankly you do when you apply for a real loan. But in reality, it's not. A rate estimate is a soft credit inquiry and it does not hurt your credit score. So you can shop around. From there, you want to choose a lender. For those of you who work at big law firms, I would check with your HR and see if they have a relationship with a lender. I've seen it where you can maybe get a bonus for signing up for refinancing, or even an interest rate discount on your loan. So always check with them first. Once you've picked your lender, now you want to pick your loan terms. So is it going to be a 5-year loan? Is it going to be a 10-year loan? Is it going to be fixed interest rate? Is it going to be variable? One thing I always recommend here is to not try to, be very aggressive with your the length of your loan. Don't stretch yourself too thin because, as I mentioned earlier, it's very hard to change the terms of your loan, unlike at the federal level. So if you lock yourself into a really high payment and all of a sudden you can't afford it, it's going to be really high to change that. So it's going to be really hard to change that. So you could always pick a longer term loan and just pay more every month to try to pay it off sooner. Or you take one of your bonuses that you get at the end of the year and just make large lump sum payments. Just remember, or just be aware that make sure that the lender doesn't have a early prepayment fee if you do that. And then lastly, obviously you want to set up your payments on autopay, as I just mentioned. So that's it, guys. That's all I had for you guys today on student loans. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, please follow the YouTube page, and we also do a LinkedIn newsletter. So follow me on LinkedIn. You can see in my profile there to subscribe. So, all right, see you soon. Thanks for watching.